Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 7th grade concept of solving rate problems. This is standard 7.4D in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 31 of the 2019 released STAAR test. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and then we will look at our answers together. So Perry is traveling, and we've got two different chunks here. So he's got 55 miles an hour for 3.5 hours. And then we've got 60 miles an hour for 2.5 hours. So two different chunks here. And I'm going to call this chunk A and chunk B, just to reference it a little bit easier. So what is the total distance he traveled during this time? So think of it like this. I'm going to make a strip diagram here. All right, so I've got my total distance. That's what I'm looking for. It's my unknown. But I've got two different chunks. So my chunk A here, and then my chunk B. Now what I'm going to put in each of those is actually going to help me out here. So when we're seeing this distance and this time and this rate, we should be thinking of this equation. Distance equals rate multiplied by times. D equals RT. How far you go, that's the distance, is a multiplication between how long you spent going and how fast you went, or what your rate was. And we have both the rate and the time, and we just need to figure out the distance. So my distance, right, so I'm going to say my distance for chunk A is going to be my rate, which is my 55 miles an hour, multiplied by 3.5 hours. And then my distance for chunk B is going to be my rate of 60 miles an hour by 2.5 hours. Once I get those two distances, add them up, and we have our total distance, because we're looking for the total distance. So that seems pretty straightforward. Let's figure out this first one. 55 times, it's going to look like 35, but it's really 3.5. So 5 and 5 is 25. 25, 27. All right, so that's going to be 15. And that's 15, that's 16. Let's add that up. 5, 12, 3, 9. All right, 1925. Remember, we've got one digit behind the decimal in our factor, so we need one digit behind the decimal in our product. Notice that this is not even an answer selection. So if we wanted to just do this, we could not. So we're going to go this 192.5. Let's do the other 60 and 2.5. So that's going to be 0, 30. So 300. That's going to be another 0, and that's 12. All right, so 1200, 300. Pretty simple. That's going to get you 1500. Remember, we've got one digit behind the decimal. One digit behind the decimal. So really, it's 150. All right, well, then that seems like it's pretty straightforward there. I've got my 150, and I've got my 192.5. Just a matter of adding those two up to get my total. And the only trick, if you want to call it a trick, I guess, would be to make sure that you line up the decimal. So look at this, 192.5. This 150 does not have a decimal, so I'm going to always place the decimal after the ones place. And that's going to help me line it up. So if you don't have a decimal and you need to line up the decimals in order to add or subtract, always put the decimal after the ones place if it's not there. That's just the only trick. I can even put a 0 here if I really want to, just to kind of hold that spot so it doesn't look like that 5 is hanging in outer space. So that's 5, that's 2, 14, that's 3. So total distance here is 342 and 5/10, or 342.5 miles. Your answer is D.